Welcome to the Goddesses of Social Work podcast, hosted by Renita Ray Davis, licensed clinical social worker, board-approved social work clinical supervisor, and facilitator of the Goddesses of Social Work supervision community. Join us as we travel through the social work journeys told by the Goddesses of Social Work community members, past and present, as they make their way toward clinical licensure.
Welcome to the Goddesses of Social Work podcast. I'm your host, Renita Ray Davis, and we are joined today by Tanya J. Ashby, MSW-LSW. This conversation is part of our special SWAG Award series, where we're celebrating the awardees and nominees of the SWAG Awards, a movement honoring service, wellness, advocacy, and growth in social work. Tanya J. Ashby, MSW-LSW, is a licensed and certified school social worker with Pittsburgh Public Schools. She earned her master's in social work from the University of Pittsburgh after completing both her associates in child development and bachelor's in social welfare from Central State University in Wilberforce, Ohio. Tanya began her career with Pittsburgh Public Schools in 2003 as a mental and behavioral health assistant, connecting directly with frontline staff across the district. Since the 2014-15 school year, she has served as a school social worker at Pittsburgh King Community Schools on the North Side. She is an active member of Rodman Street Missionary Baptist Church, where she co-facilitates the Sister to Sister Women's Bible class, and she serves as a board member of Hope for Tomorrow, Inc. Tanya is also a proud member of the Pittsburgh alumni chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority, Inc. In 2023, Tanya was honored as the recipient of the SWAG Lifetime Achievement Award, a recognition she describes as deeply humbling and a celebration of her lifelong dedication to service, advocacy, and excellence. Tanya, I am so honored to welcome you to the podcast.
Thank you, Renita. I am glad to be here.
Yay. You know what? We went through your questions, but when I read your bio and it wasn't in the questions, I wanted to know more about your Sister to Sister Women's Bible class. In a previous life, I was an unofficial women's ministry leader, and I would do 6 small groups at a time for the women in the church that I attended, and it was such an honor to be able to do that. So to see that you're doing the Sister to Sister Women's Bible class, I want to know more about it, and how does your role as a social work help you in facilitating this circle?
Oh my goodness, what a wonderful question to begin with. So I am one of 4 facilitators for the class, and we have women from about age 40 till about 90. So there's a variety of ages, which means I'm one of the facilitators. We have women in the class who are so knowledgeable and that they teach me. We talk about, we've gone through various books. We're about to focus on a study of Galatians in about 2 weeks. And so we facilitate, but we always begin with expectations and our ground rules. And we want to make sure that everybody understands them, and includes things like confidentiality, give yourself some time to pass, or you don't have to answer every question, and that we will respect people's responses. And so once we go through that, it's a litany of things that people will say, yes, I will. And so then we open up with a prayer, and we just review anybody having a birthday, any type of celebration. And then we go through our lesson, and it's a great discussion because we have women who will join us on Zoom, either join it on Zoom or they'll call in. And so we have a variety of participation and a lot of laughter. And then we often end with a prayer, and then also asking people to tell us who you want us to pray for. And then when we begin next time, give us an update on how people are doing. But I love that. I've been the co-facilitator for about 4 years. It's a wonderful group, which is part of our women's ministry. It's a joy.
I love that you just described step by step an amazing group structure. I love group, right? A lot of people, a lot of social workers, I think, or it's been my experience, I'll say, that a lot of social workers that I've gotten to witness, they want to do the one-on-one and they get a little nervous about the group space. I love groups because it's not just me that you're learning from.
Yes.
As a one-on-one, you're learning from the other people who are like-minded, or they wouldn't be here, right? Who are having
Yes.
like-minded
Yes.
situations and lived experiences, and you get to learn from a multitude of experiences, just not just one. And so the way you just described that group processing, I was like, oh, you're speaking my language. You're speaking my love language.
Well, wonderful. You're welcome to join us. I know
Oh,
that
it's
you,
via Zoom. Oh, it's not
yeah,
an in person.
no. We
Okay.
meet 2 times a year in person, and that one is for our Christmas party, and the second is for our end of semester class where we can just join in and just have fun. We bring food, we dance, we laugh. It's just a great time to connect because when you meet people on Zoom, you see them one way, sitting down typically, but then when you see them in person, you realize, oh, she's really tall, or this person really likes to dance, and so you get to know them a different layer. And so I enjoy that. I really do.
I love that. And yes, I would love to join.
I'll give you more information about that. Yes.
Yeah, definitely. And you know what? If others who are listening want to join, we'll let them figure. We'll put
Yes.
your email address so that they can get more information
Yes.
from you about it. Tanya, I'm wondering, how did you get? The question is coming is get pulled into doing this. It doesn't feel like you got pulled into it, but that's how it's being asked right now. How did you get pulled into doing this as a facilitator?
So so I've been a member of this church for about 40 years. And I was a part of different ministries. And so I joined the sister to sister class, and I had facilitated other groups through our church. And so I was asked by a couple of the women who were facilitating if I would consider being a facilitator. And so I said, well, let me pray about it and let me think about it. And then a few moments later, I said, yes. It's been a joy. It's been a learning experience. It's been a humbling experience, but it's been a refreshing and a rewarding experience. I know that you had asked me earlier about my social work and how that comes into play in that in many ways, because there are times when we have women who are talking about a discussion, but sometimes their topic is not relevant. And so if I'm facilitating, I'll say, hold that thought, because I do want to get to you in a few moments. And so we want to make sure that no one monopolizes the group. So we need to have not only ground rules read, but ground rules reinforced. And so each one of us will do that. And then there may be times when someone's feelings might get hurt and they may be quiet. And so I'll do a follow-up call to make sure that Sister so-and-so is okay. And so I'll use those skills to make sure that everyone is okay.
I love that. You are an amazing group facilitator. And I also loved how you're able to sharpen your social work skills in a setting that is not your social work career.
Yes.
I want to invite people to do that. Like, find other spaces that you just really enjoy and see how you can stretch yourself so that you can then come back within your profession, your social work career, and use those skill sets so much more easily and effortlessly.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. I want to ask you something fun now.
Okay.
If you had a free afternoon with no responsibilities, no one calling on you, what would you do?
Wow. I would like to get almost an all-day massage. Get a massage, and maybe go to a theater after that, and then have a delicious meal, full meal. And I would certainly like to share that with my husband, where we would go together to get the massage, go together to the theater, to a movie, and then have a meal.
You're speaking my love language. You can just continue to speak my love. Yes. A good meal, a good film, and my body is super relaxed. I love that. And you know what? I am wishing that for you and your
Thank
husband.
you. Thank you.
Maybe let him listen
I
to
would
this
love that.
podcast and he will surprise you.
Yes, I would love that.
I love that too. So, I told you a little bit about our the podcast before we hit record, but one of the purposes of the Guys of Social Work podcast is to have a platform where we can share our social work journeys. And so that's what most intrigues me about getting to do this. I love listening to social work journeys, especially someone who's won a Lifetime Achievement Award for their work within the profession. And so I want you, Tanya, to start from the beginning. Like, how did you even learn about social work? And what has been your journey, and where are you now, and what are you doing, and what would you like to do in the future within the profession?
So I remember when I was about 10, 11, 12 years old, that my mom, and we're from Ohio, so my mom was a registered nurse. And so she would work Monday through Friday at the VA hospital in Dayton. And so she would share with us some of the challenges and some of the rewards. And so she talked often about connecting with people and meeting them where they are. On some weekends, she would go to different churches and teach first aid, and I would go with her. And I saw how gentle she was with them. Not only was she well versed with the medical information, but she was also well versed with the heart language, checking in with, especially with the older senior citizens. How are you? You know, have you been eating well? Have you been sleeping well? So she would ask a lot of questions on their well-being. And it intrigued me as a young person, like, wow. And so back in those days, the women would wear the white outfits and then the white hats. But on the weekend, she wouldn't. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, so here mom is doing nursing, but she's got on casual clothes. And so I thought I wouldn't mind initially being a nurse if I could wear casual clothes. And so that kind of piqued my interest in just taking care of people and checking in on their well-being. And that was around 10, 11, or 12. I would go with her to that. And then when I went to high school, I began babysitting. And so I had a lot, didn't make a lot of money, but made a lot of connections with people in the neighborhood babysitting for their children. So that means that they trusted me. And so they seemed to respond well to me. So I enjoyed that. So I thought, well, let me just perhaps pursue this. And so that's why I decided to combine child development with social work, because at Central State, the child development was just a 2-year course. And I wanted to go for 4 years. And so I combined that to have a 4-year degree, which they were very similar. There's a lot of overlap with childcare and social work in that field. So I enjoyed that. So went to Central State and did 4 years there, did my internships. My first internship was at a daycare, which I was very comfortable with because I had babysat. And it gave me some comfort and feeling like, okay, it built up my professional confidence. And then my second internship was at a domestic violence center working with women. So that was a different avenue. I worked with the children of the center because the parents, the moms were working with the other staff there as an intern. So it gave me a chance and some insight to domestic violence. And my heart just bled because of the stories that the kids would tell me, that they were afraid of the father figure in the family. They had to flee and they didn't have a lot of stability. And so we would prepare meals for them to help them to feel comfortable and safe. And so that just intrigued me more and gave me a more desire to help and check in on other people's well-being. And so I did my 4 years at Central State, and then I got my 2-year, my master's degree at University of Pittsburgh, where I did an internship at Pace School. And I worked with special needs children who had some academic challenges and behavior challenges. And so that was a different type of internship, but it gave me a desire for those who were less fortunate, for those who had some behavior issues and some challenges, who were not always looked upon as an ideal setting or ideal children, but they also had needs and needed to be loved as well. And so here I am. I got hired in 2003 working for the Board of Education, which is a wonderful opportunity. My first job with Pittsburgh Public School was the mental behavior health assistant. I worked at central office, and my job was to support the schools with SAP, which stands for Student Assistance Program, and also to do what's called postvention. And postvention is whenever there was a shooting or a death or anything tragic that happened to students in our school or staff in our school, myself and my coworker, who was also my boss, Janet Uhas, we would go to the school and we would triage. We would support the staff and the students to let them know a couple things. One was they were safe, and the crises and the tragedy that happened, it was not their fault. So we had to reassure them, because many children thought that because a classmate had died, it was because they had rolled their eyes at the child or they had said something negative. So we had to reassure them it was not their fault. We talked about how do you grieve, and there were many different ways of how to grieve because we didn't want them to feel that they had to keep their feelings inside. So many of them wrote letters, they drew pictures, they sang, and some of them decided to go to the viewing with their parents if the parents permitted that. That was not anything that the school was going to take them to, but if the parents wanted them to go, then that was their choice. And so we talked and we would follow up to see how they were doing. We also sent a letter home to the parent to let the parent and guardian know that their child received support from the student assistance program in their building. And we gave several ways of how they can grieve and several resources that they could reach out to if help was needed, additional help was needed.
Thank you so much. And such a great detailed answer. I love that. I wrote some things down, but one of the things I didn't write down, and I was kind of praying in my head if I wanted to bring it up, but I think I am. The day that we are recording this, I just saw that there has been a shooting in Minnesota. Okay, yes. And I didn't read the whole thing, but I saw that 2 students had been shot and killed, and several were injured. And I'm thinking about the social workers in those schools, and not just in the Minneapolis school, but just all over this country, with the number of school shootings that have just blown up over this last decade. This is not a political podcast. I truly am wondering about how do social workers who are working in these schools dealing with such scary, tough situations, because when we're obviously when we're dealing with adults who are, as I like to say, the least of these, who are in situations that are scary and dangerous. But when we're thinking about children, they're in school because it's federal law for them to be in school, right? And their mamas and daddies can get in trouble if they don't send them, and yet here they're in danger. And so then how do social workers take, I don't even know the question, but maybe you know the answer.
Okay.
Talk to me about social workers in these schools dealing with these types of crises.
So we have a program that talks about our response call. And so we practice drills. Now, a drill cannot guarantee that every child is safe, but our students in our building know what they're supposed to do. And one thing that we emphasize is following directions. If you are supposed to go to your science class and you're in the hallway and there's an intruder in the building, more likely they may get you. So it doesn't prevent them from being captured by an intruder, but if they follow directions and go to their classroom with their teacher like they're assigned to, the likelihood of them being captured by an intruder is reduced. And so we talk about the importance of following directions, just like we do fire drills. We do those drills about intruders in the building. We talk about the importance of being where you're supposed to be. Every child in this building, our principal knows every child in this building. And we also have a security guard. We lock our doors and we tell them, you do not open the door for anybody. You allow the security guard to open the door. And so we have 6 doors. And so it's kind of frightening because sometimes people are coming up to the doors and students can see them, but they know the expectation is do not open that door. And so we tell them that your teacher, be where you're supposed to be. We can just reinforce that we're going to keep them as safe as we can while they're in our care. They need to make sure that they get on their correct school bus because the guardian is supposed to be waiting for them, or they're supposed to know how to get home. But following directions, that's the key. And sometimes our students forget the importance of following directions, and sometimes they just don't do it.
Yeah, they're students.
Yes.
Yeah, they're students. And so then my follow-up question, Tanya, is, outside the intruders, the other incidents that you mentioned where there's a death, whether of a student or a teacher or some type of incident, how then does the social worker who is involved in the postvention, how have you in the past taken really good care of yourself after dealing with such high crises situations?
So creating routines are so important. You need to have a routine to fall back on, and that includes getting enough rest, eating well, staying hydrated, and recognizing that you're just one person. I don't know about anybody else, but I know I don't have an S on my chest. I'm not superwoman. And so I know that there are times that I need people to support me and to tell me that it's okay to not be okay. Take some time off. And I don't mean not coming to work, but take some time out during the day to pause, to pray, to meditate, and just kind of realign yourself with what needs to be done. If we take some time away and pause and kind of rejuvenate, then we're better at it. So I do those kind of things. I make sure that I eat my lunch every day. I make sure that I eat breakfast every day so that I have enough energy to sustain me. So that, because I know that if I'm not well, I can't help anybody else to get well. And so that's my goal to self care. You're making sure that I'm getting my steps in as much as I can, making sure that I journal a lot. And so then I reread my entries, before I put a new entry in. I'll look at the previous entry, and then I'll look at what was I doing this time last year? And then it remind me of the progress. And because I do pray to God, I'm thankful that God has given me strength and energy to get over that hurdle that I sometimes have forgotten about. And so I do have my faith that keeps me grounded and rooted in this kind of work because it's service. It is service.
It's absolutely service work. And I believe that a lot of us have been called to do this work, right? I used to say, I still say it, that I think Jesus was a social worker because he was on the beach with the prostitutes and the drunks and,
Yes,
all,
yes,
again, the least of these. But
exactly.
I
Absolutely.
love that you talk, because I talk to my social workers and I love that you're reiterating that about it doesn't mean obviously take your days off. Don't just let that PTO sit there. Like really
Exactly. Yes,
take your days off. I'm actually going to talk to my community about scheduling days off,
yes,
as the year is ending, but having breaks throughout the day. We talk about getting up and washing your hands in between
mhm,
sessions, going
mhm,
outside for your
yes,
lunch break. Don't sit at your desk and keep working. Actually go outside. And right now there's a lot of butterflies and
yes,
birds. They're just so beautiful out there. So going outside and
yes,
having your lunch, listening to music, taking a walk, like you said. Even if it's just up and down the hallways of the agency or organization you're working at, but
yes,
having many breaks throughout the day, that's what self-care looks like. Even though, yes,
yes.
go and get the all day massage and,
Right, right.
go and, if it's a beautifying thing, your hair, your nails that make you feel better, do all of those things, yes. But really what counts is the mundane task of getting up in between sessions, washing your hands, eating
Right.
your lunch outside, beautifying your desk if you need to. I love your flowers in your background, making
You.
sure that you have beautiful things around you so that you don't lose the beauty of the work that we're
Absolutely.
doing here.
I agree. I totally
Yeah.
agree.
I want to, I
Mhm.
know I didn't tell you I was going to ask this question, but you have 20 plus years as a social worker. And
Yes.
one of the things, and I think it was with Sharice actually, who introduced us, who's the founder over the Swag Awards. She
Yes.
and I were talking a few podcast episodes back about burnout in social work. And maybe 2019, I read in a textbook that burnout postmasters for social work professionals was 7 years. Then I recently, a couple of years ago, read an article that burnout in social work professionals postmasters was 5 years. And Sharice and I were talking about, because she's known as the compassion fatigue lady,
Yes.
burnout being seen as little as 3 years postmasters.
Wow.
But
Wow.
you and I have been
Mhm.
in this profession 20 plus years.
Mm-hmm.
I
Hmm.
think I strongly
Yeah.
believe that the reason I'm still in this profession and apparently and am in love with social work, I love social work. I love social work, but it is because I am intentional about my self-care routines. And I
Yes.
want to hear, what do
Yes.
you think has contributed to the longevity in your career as well?
Self-care.
Mm-hmm.
So I think of the field of social work and working with families is a lot like a conveyor belt. So you have your items or you have your families on the conveyor belt that's moving slowly. And while they're in front of you, you have some impact. You have probably the most impact while they're in front of you. So when they move on to the next person, it's their turn. And so you try to impact them as much as you can while you have time, because after a while, your time is up and then you need to move on to the next family. But in the meantime, in the between time, you have to do self care. And I do like going for walks. I like just taking in fresh air and just, I have a window in my office, so I take a look at the sun or the traffic and just kind of break the momentum sometimes so that I'm not just focused on work, 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 work. I do listen to music. I do hum. I do sing a little bit in my office, and just to be able to do some deep breathing and just to relax a little bit before I get back to returning a phone call or working with a family or taking a student back to class for the fourth time. So I just try to have fun in what I do. And then I do set goals for myself, not always daily, but sometimes weekly, to make sure that I know that I'm moving forward, that I am making progress. Because sometimes I'll say to myself, what have I done today? And I can't always put my finger on something that's productive. But when I write things down, it reminds me, oh, I did do A, B, C, and D. Or I did A, I'll get to C and D before the week is out.
I love that. You've mentioned writing something down multiple times, right? Journaling as part of your self-care practice, and then looking at previous entries to see how far
Yes,
you've come and that you did
yes,
overcome whatever was going on in that moment.
yes.
Not just year long, but it
Uh-huh.
sounds like even throughout the day, like doesn't feel like you were very productive, but because you've written down everything that not maybe everything, but highlights of what you've done, you're able to be like, oh yeah, I did get something accomplished. And I think
Yes,
a
yes,
sense of accomplishment does
yes.
help diminish burnout as well because you're feeling
It does.
fulfilled and purposeful.
Yes, yes. I do want to share two things, may I?
Yes, of
So,
course.
and so I've been in the field of social work for 40 years, 40 years. And so sometimes, and it's a calling and it's a ministry. And so
Yeah.
today I received a phone call from a young lady. She has two children in our school who transferred out. And she was a student. Now she's a parent of a 13-year-old and an 11-year-old, but they've transferred out. She was a student of mine when she was in the fifth grade. And so I said to her, I said, when you were in the fifth grade, you were my girls group in Northview. And I wrote a poem, and we opened up our poem, our session every day with a poem. Would you happen to know the poem? And she said, yes, I do. And she began to recite it, and it brought tears to my eyes. And here's the poem. May I share it? It's called, so I'll just do the first part. And this is the part that she remembered. It's called I Am a Woman. I am a woman. I am special. I am unique in every way. I have beauty. I have grace. And I love me every day. I am a woman, and that's something. I have worth yet untold. I am confident as I grow, and my treasures cannot be sold. So when she said that to me, I said, oh my goodness, she was in my group 25 years ago. I was actually longer than that. It was 28 years ago that she remembered that poem. It just touched me. And it reminds me of you never know the type of impact you've had on people until moments like that.
Until
And so that
years
gives me,
later.
yes, and it gives me it boosts me up to keep on going.
Don't you love that? Don't you love when that
Yes, I
happens?
do.
Yes.
I do. I'm going to put that in my journal tonight when I go home.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Right. Every minute. Because you know what? I have so much to say about that, but I am going to say this. One of the things that I've been talking to my social workers about is when you get a thank you, if somebody sends you an email, if somebody sends you a text message, if
Yes.
somebody gives you a card, don't just be like, oh, thank you, and move on with it. I
Yeah.
take screenshots, I take pictures.
Yes.
I even will take a picture if I have a card, someone sent me a card, I'll take a picture of myself with the card. I'm not
Oh my
sharing it
goodness.
with
Yes.
anybody, but it's in my
Yes.
phone. And then there's memories
Yes.
that
Yes.
pop up. You know how the phone gives you your memories, and you're
Yes.
like, oh, I have made an impact in somebody's life. And it just gives you those bursts of memories, seems like at the perfect time when you need it,
It
to be
does.
reminded that somebody took the time out to send you a thank you and or to recite a poem. Tanya, when
Yes.
you were reciting that poem, I was just thinking about Dr. Maya Angelou, who is she's
Yes.
still one of my teachers. She's one of my teachers. And
Yes.
I was also thinking of, Am I Not a Woman? Who wrote that one? Am I Not a Woman?
That was Sojourner Truth.
Sojourner Truth.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. It's
And it
interesting
was
that you
just a
say that.
combination of both of
Yes.
those
Yes.
energies.
Yes.
Yes.
Because interesting that you say that because
Mm.
I did that. I recited that poem for my church, and we had what's called the Women's Day Stroll, and I opened up with, "Am I not a woman? Ain't I a woman?" And so it was a whole big production. And then also I wrote that to honor Maya because I know she has Phenomenal Woman. And so this poem was called Woman. And so it was to honor both of those. So you picked up right on that. Thank you.
I got it. I love it. Yes.
You picked on that, as the kids say.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
I heard it. I heard both of
Yes.
those voices when you were reciting that. And then I was thinking,
You.
one, we said a prayer right before we hit record, and I
Yes.
always thank the social workers and the women who came before us, and then for them to be present right now
Yes.
in this moment feels such a blessing. But
It
then
is.
too, I'm thinking of you, Tanya Ashby,
Well,
and the
thank
fact
you.
that you read that poem or recited that poem and had those girls recite that poem with you every day they showed up with you, and they remember it
Yes.
25, 28 years later. The ripple effects of the impact that you have had on those young girls' lives, for them to now have their own daughters and be able to say, woman, you are something. You mean something to somebody,
Yes. Yes.
including
Absolutely.
yourself, and you being able to pour that into them. You're like a
Oh,
Dr. Maya Angelou in
thank
your
you.
Pittsburgh King Community School.
Well, thank you. We certainly want to have that kind of impact. You talked about receiving thank you notes. And so I have a
Mm-hmm.
wall of thank you notes that I got last year and year before last. So every time when I come into my office, I feel overwhelmed or tired. I'll look at a couple of those and I'll say, oh, that's right. They feel that I'm worthy. They feel that I'm kind and that I have an impact. And so that's also a boost for me to keep going in this field.
I love that. And I love the five love languages, and my love language is words of affirmation. And
Okay.
one of my gifts of the spirit, I believe, is the gift of exhortation, right? And so here I am pouring encouraging words into people all the time. And so when somebody gives me my love language of words of affirmation, it'll
Yes.
fill
Yes.
my cup. I'm not going to just, skate over that very quickly. I'm going to sit with it and
Yes.
savor it
Yes.
because it is one of my love languages. And so the fact that you have a wall, I hope people will start getting their own walls of thank
Yes.
yous and appreciation so that they can sit with that for themselves when times get
Absolutely.
tough. Yeah.
I recommend that as well.
Cheyenne, that was beautiful. And one of the other things that I tell people, get you an ego wall. We talk about vision boards. I love vision boards. I have several. I'm looking at two right now.
Okay.
I
Okay.
love vision boards. But when you said you go back in your journals and you read previous years and see the things that you accomplished
Yes.
and are overcome, I think too, when you have an ego board, when you put these are things wow, I accomplished these things. It can remind you can do hard things. You
Yes.
can do tough things, right? And so
I agree. I agree. Yes.
just get you an ego board to y'all.
That sounds good.
I
Yeah.
love this so much. Tanya, thank you so much for that. I'm going to move on to swag. I'm going
Okay.
to move on to your work at swag. So I tried to do some digging
Okay.
and I saw that, I know what swag awards are. Of course, I've talked to Sharice, the founder, and she's been on the podcast.
Okay.
But I was specifically looking for what did it mean? What were like the particulars to be able, what did it take, I'll say, to be able to be the recipient of the Lifetime Achievement Award, which you won in 2023. So, what do you feel like got you that nomination and then that win?
I was really overwhelmed. I
Mm,
was just overwhelmed with gratitude. When I saw the letter, I had to read it a couple times, like, really? Because social work is my heart. I love social work. It's a passion, it's a calling, it's a ministry. And so I had heard about the SWAG Award the year before because my supervisor, um, Dr. Gordon, had won a SWAG Award, and so I was familiar with that, but wasn't I had no idea that I would get it the next year. Just such an honor in various ways to recognize the skill and also the hard work of social work because sometimes people think that's, oh, social work is easy. Anybody can be a social worker. So let me tell you, that's not true. It takes training. It takes a lot of commitment, dedication. And there are people who have hurt people because they weren't trained properly. So it's an honor to be able to be recognized with the SWAG Award. I cried. I was like, oh my goodness, is this for real? Lifetime Achievement Award. As a social worker, I've just been doing social work with not for an applause or not for any type of reward. It's because that's what I'm supposed to do. You're supposed to serve other people humbly and also cheerfully. And so when I got the award, I thought, wow, this is something. So I'm just grateful to get it. Just so grateful to get it.
And just talking to you, and I didn't write down, but I'm glad you said that. 40 years in this profession.
Yes.
I'm gonna say it. Black don't crack, because I'm thinking.
You know
I'm
what I always say,
thinking.
and maybe I shouldn't say it now, but I'm going to. Good black don't crack if you don't smoke it.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Yes. Absolutely. Yeah, we need that set. But my goodness, I'm thinking 20. Yes. But the other thing, obviously, I've said this multiple times. I've said it a couple times in this episode. I always thank the social workers who came before us. And Tanya Ashby,
Yes,
MSW,
ma'am.
LSW, I'm thanking you. I am
Oh, well, you're more than
thanking
welcome.
you as a social worker who's come before us to just pave the way for us to be able to do this work. And so I
Thank
just want to
you.
say thank you.
Oh, well,
Thank
thank
you.
you. You're more than
Yeah.
welcome.
Yeah. And I also, thinking about that, I had written something down earlier when we were talking about the sister circle. You said there are women in that circle from 40 to 90 years old.
Yes,
And,
yes,
I told you one of the series that we've done on the Guys of Social Work podcast is honoring our elders, and specifically those living with dementia or Alzheimer's, and even their caregivers who are loving those who are living with dementia and Alzheimer's. And one of
yes.
the themes that keeps coming up is when, especially here for us in the South, when when something happened to mama and you don't know why she's not remembering and all this,
Mm.
they kind of stop going to church. And one of the things
Yes,
we are learning is that they need to be included in the churches that they served in and went to
yes.
for 40, 50 years, and not just kind of put to the side. And so I guess the
I
question I
agree.
have, that is unexpected question to you, I know I'm
Okay.
giving you all these unexpected questions, is how can we, in honoring our elders, make sure that we keep them involved in church, and
Hmm.
not just kind of get left at home,
Hmm.
even if they are dealing with, whether it be dementia, Alzheimer, or even a physical ailment. How can we make sure that we continue to include our elders within the church community?
I think that is a must. We need to find out what's preventing them from getting to church. Is it transportation? Is it not having a person to bring them there? So whatever the issue is that's preventing them, we need to address it, find the resources. Because when they do come to church, that's familiarity. And you put on a song that they have been singing, a old gospel song or old hymn or spiritual, a lot of times that memory comes back because it's been ingrained. And so that's another way to give them joy and also purpose. We need to see them, we need to be with them, and they need to be there because that's been their life. Church is a foundation, it's a bedrock, and they need to go there. And so, whatever is preventing them from getting there, we need to find resources so that they can get there.
And that is social work.
Yes,
We
yes.
sometimes separate those two things, but
Mm.
that right there, the solution is social
Mhm.
work, and
Yes.
social workers making sure that we
Yeah.
ask our clients what sustains you. And what we'll hear
Yes.
a lot, especially I believe in the Black community, is their churches. Sustain. How
Absolutely.
do we get you back involved? How do we
Mhm.
get you back there? And I
Right.
believe that's social work, and that is
Mhm.
soul work. And so I know you're a
Yes, it
school
is.
social worker, but here we're dealing with the lifespan. Apparently, from the kids to
Absolutely. Yes,
the social
yes,
workers who've been in the field for a long time, all the way to
yes,
the elderly, and making sure
yeah,
that we honor all phases of life. So thank you so much for that
absolutely.
answer.
You're more
And
than welcome.
kind of leaning into going back into the social work, I'm always curious, 40 plus years in the
Yeah.
profession, what values or beliefs about social work have changed the most for you in regard to this profession?
Values that have changed. Trying to think about what values have changed. I know that everybody should be valued. We didn't always see that. It seems as if the youth back in the day, that the youth didn't have a place because the youth were just youthful. And what do they know? They don't have life experiences. But now we're realizing that they do have an opinion and we need to value them more. We often have heard that this person is going to be a leader in the future. We need to let them be a leader now because life is so short and life is so unpredictable. So valuing the youth's opinion, because you can learn a lot. A lot of our youth are tech savvy. A lot of the youth have it, they can teach us a lot of things. And so we need to value them more than what we do. We shouldn't throw away anybody, but give the youth their flowers and also give them a platform so that they can teach us not just how to dance, but also how to navigate. So I think that has changed some, that we do have a tendency to value them more now than what we used to.
I completely agree, and I love that. And I'm gonna swivel it even a little bit more. I think too, especially those of us who've been in the profession a long time, honoring and valuing these young social workers who are coming into the profession. I used to hear, I don't hear it as much, and I don't know why. I don't know if it's because it's changed or it's getting better, but I used to hear a lot of social, because I would teach, and now obviously I do supervision, so I get to witness a lot of younger social workers or social workers who are young in the profession.
Okay.
And they'll say the folks who've been in these positions 10, 15, 20 years don't really honor them a whole space. And it feels like they're trying to, keep them from being great,
Yes,
And
yes.
so being open and welcoming to the knowledge that they have. And in fact, I'm going to say this: internship experiences. I wrote that down early because you mentioned 3 internship experiences that molded and shaped your career. And I was so intrigued by that because sometimes you don't hear about people's internship experiences and why they're so valuable. And so when I was the internship person at one of the schools I was at, I would talk to the social workers and be like, now these folks have been doing this thing for 100 years. You got to go on in here and have all these grandiose ideas. How about listen to what they're doing? Let them see that you're going to be consistent, that you're going to be reliable, that you're going to be dependable, and then you can give your bright idea,
That's right. In
So
that
they're,
order.
meeting it halfway, like, let's not oppress them, but also young social workers also show up and be consistent, be responsible, be dependable. You have bright ideas and we need to hear them, but we need to know that you're going to show up and implement them as well. So
exactly. I agree. So I did have a 4th internship that I didn't mention, and it was
really,
with the Allegheny County Health Department. And that was a great, great experience. I worked with about 4 caseworkers, and we would go and make home visits, and we would talk about what the family needed and how we would provide those services. It was a great experience. It was right on the north side, which is where I'm working. But it was great. It was back in, I think it was in 84. And so I remember on Thursdays, we had to enter the health department from the back door because families who were coming to get tested for specialized health issues were in the front. And so we had to respect confidentiality. And so we had to follow suit and go to the back door, and we made sure that we did not violate those families.
I love that. I even love the wording you used. It, yeah, that was good. That was so stigma free. I love that. I love the wording that you use. I have just a couple. I've loved this. I'm smiling. My cheeks are hurt because I'm smiling.
I've enjoyed every moment of it as well.
Smiling so hard, but I just have a couple more questions. I always love hearing when someone is in a sorority, and you are alumni member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Inc. And I'm curious, what has that meant for you, and how has it influenced your work as a social worker?
So it goes hand in hand with Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. The bottom line is service, sisterhood, scholarship, and service. And so we are to give other people service without any type of accolades or recognition. We do it because that's just who we are. And it does feel good to be able to serve other people. And it falls hand in hand with how Christ serves people. And so that's our mission, that's our calling, and that's what we do.
That is beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much for the work you're doing in so many different areas. I just so appreciate that. Oh, this has been such an amazing interview, but I am on my last question. And so I am always curious, especially from someone who won a Lifetime Achievement Award. I'm just going to keep bragging about that. I love that for you.
Thank
But,
you. Such an
what
honor.
wisdom, what final words of advice would you like to leave our audience with today?
So I would say, and this is probably stated in almost every interview, is you need to be able to listen and not run ahead of people. Like really listen and hear them out and practice the things that we were taught in class. You give eye contact, you listen, you wait to respond, you pause in case they have something else to share with you, and then you give a genuine answer. It's also important that if you want to give a person a hug, you ask for permission, because hugging someone is intruding in their space. And so you need to get permission. Touch is very essential for survival, but you need to get permission first for that. But to be able to smile, and you can give a smile to someone who you don't know, because you're saying to that person, I see you and I validate you. So those are some essential things that I was taught not only in class, but also in my house. And it was modeled. So I learned that that's important, to smile and to listen to people and to validate them, because they have a lot to say and we have a lot to learn.
That is so good. And can I tell you why I think it's good? There's so many certifications, and I'm not hating on them, but EMDR and PTS, CPTS, it's just all these certifications that you can get, right? And what I heard you say is go after 40 years in the profession, you're just saying stick with the basics.
Yes.
Stick with the basics. You don't have to be an expert and credentialed, in all these areas. You just stick to the basics and you're going to make a huge impact in the lives of the people that you serve.
Absolutely. And I know my pastor would often say that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And he would often say that all of these degrees that people are getting, it's like underwear. You don't wear it on the outside. You wear it inside to support you.
I love that. And you know what? In the words of, who we just were talking about, Dr. Maya Angelou.
Yes.
People won't remember what you did, I think she said, but they'll remember how you made them feel.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what that reminded me of.
Absolutely. I agree. Absolutely.
That was so great. Tanya, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your heart, your story, and your wisdom. It has been such an honor having you on the Goddesses of Social Work podcast.
Well, thank you, Renita. And I have enjoyed every moment of it. And thank you for your wisdom and also this platform and this opportunity. I appreciate that.
Yes. And I will make sure to include the link to find out more about the SWAG Awards.
Okay.
Right. And they can see your story on that on the online. And I'll make sure it's in your podcast description. And also any way that they can get in touch with you that you feel comfortable with, if they want to join the sister to sister circle, or just learn more about you in general.
Absolutely.
Okay. So I'll make sure we have that link as well in your podcast description.
That sounds wonderful. Thank you so much, Renita.
You're welcome.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Goddesses of Social Work podcast. We are glad you were here. If you like this episode, please come back to hear more stories of the journeys through social work, and please leave us a review on Apple or Spotify. See you next time here on the Goddesses of Social Work podcast.